I've heard, again, many of these prominent old Earth creationists, I'm sure you've heard this many times before, they say, well, the flood is local because it's only isolated to the world of the ungodly. And so basically, just, right, it is kind of a funny rescue device. What is a good
I'm sorry.
response to that?
That's so funny. I got to laugh. Um, I happen to have a video on why the gap theory or any other old Earth view to try to justify evolution in the Bible is wrong theologically. Now, we can do it scientifically with geochronometers. We have lots of material on geochronometers, including 2 whole videos on just the big ones, plus all the little ones we have on our YouTube site. But for those who want to believe in that old Earth again, and they want to make, say in the case of the gap theory, they want to make that there was a worldwide flood, but it was in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. They call it Lucifer's flood, and then they relegate Noah's flood to a local flood. Now, there's some serious problems with that view, both biblically and scientifically. But let's take a look at just the Bible part, just the theology of it. First of all, at the time of the flood in Genesis chapter 7, it says that the waters rose. This is chapter 7, chapter 8. That the waters rose for 150 days, and that the water covered the highest piece of ground prior to the flood by at least 22 feet of water. And then for 150 days, the waters went down. And then we take a look at Psalm 104, which is the chronology of the flood in verses 5 to 9. And so in verse 5, God sends a worldwide flood. Verse 6, the water was standing above the mountains. Now, this is prior to the flood starting. But the water rose and covered those mountains. Then in verse 7, the waters go away. In verse 8, it says that because the mountains that existed before the flood were completely eroded by the tidal tsunamis of the flood, and then redeposited in wet mud layers, which are the sedimentary rocks we see today. But that's when that happens. In verse 8, it says, after the water goes away, then the current mountains that we see today rose up, the valley sank down. In verse 9, God promises he'll never flood the earth again with water. Now, first of all, how could this be a local flood when there have been hundreds of thousands of floods since, but God said he'd never flood the earth again with water? So you can't compare a worldwide flood and these local floods. I would also point out that in Genesis chapter 7, God says that he wants Noah to build the ark to preserve the life that God sent to him. That is, 1 pair of the unclean, 3.5 pairs of the clean animals who meet the criteria of living on dry land and breathing air through nostrils. So, there were no aquariums on the ark. But God says he's going to wipe out all life that lives on the dry land, except those animals in the ark with Noah and the 8 humans that are on the ark. Now, read chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9. God says, I am going to eliminate all life on earth, the dry land, that's not in the ark. Now, again, aquatic creatures survive, no problem. Insects, amphibians, they survive on the floating debris of the flood, no problem. But he says he's going to wipe out all the humans except the 8. He's going to wipe out all the land animals except those in the ark. And then after the flood is over, he says, that's what I did. I wiped out all humans, all life on dry land. Now, either God means all or some. Why build an ark in the first place? A vessel that, there's no vessel bigger made by man until the SS Great Eastern. That laid the first transatlantic cable. But why build a ship in that size range? Really a barge, technically. Why not just walk away? If it's a local flood, thousands of animals die. I got news for you. Squirrels will make more squirrels.
Right.
So everything in the biblical account of chapter 7, 8, 9 says it was a total and complete flood. Again, in Psalm 104, it was a total and complete flood of the entire earth. We go to 2 Peter chapter 3. Peter uses a very interesting word in the Greek language. He said the earth was cataclysmically destroyed. This is not a local flood. It's a worldwide flood. And so any local flood view is totally inconsistent with Scripture. It doesn't fit at all. And you cannot make the waters of creation, which are the waters on the surface of the earth in Genesis 1-2, a worldwide flood of judgment. It's a worldwide covering of the earth with water at creation.